There's very few problems in life where you can put in a very small amount of effort and get a massive improvement in your quality of life, but fixing your erection problems really is one of those problems. And I can say that because I've lived it and I've been helping guys through this for the last 8 years. So what it can realistically look like for just about every guy who's struggling with this problem is that if you take the steps that are required, you will start to feel significantly more confident outside the bedroom. You'll start to look forward to sex. You'll get so much time back because all this time that you spend worrying about it right now no longer gets taken up by that. You just have so much more space in your life. Your relationship quality will improve because you're going to be a lot more empathetic and caring towards her pain, but also you're going to feel more secure in your relationship because your sex life is healthy, but you're also going to understand a part of yourself that will allow you to be more confident. And then your sex life is going to be better than you could have imagined. It's hard to describe, but erection problems actually create a sex life that's better than porn because porn has a very low ceiling about how good it can be. It's based on technique and how big you are and all those kinds of things. But there's another way that you can actually create amazing sex that does not have the same upper limit that porn has, and it's actually way easier and more enjoyable to have. But you're probably thinking, Cam, I've put in a lot of effort and I have not gotten any of the results that you're talking about. And I totally understand that because that's what happened to me. I spent 7 years struggling with this problem before I healed it. And I put in a tremendous amount of effort and a tremendous amount of money. And eventually what happened is I realized that I was approaching it from the wrong perspective. And once I approached it from the right perspective, it actually healed pretty quickly. So in order to help you understand the perspective that I was struggling with and what has to happen in order for you to actually find the right perspective, I want to tell you the story of scurvy. So if you don't know anything about scurvy, scurvy is a disease that ravaged shipping for hundreds of years, back in like the 1400s, the 1500s, the 1600s, and even the 1700s. In the 14 and 1500s, when England would send a long distance voyage off, they expected a 50% death rate among the sailors because of scurvy. And the first sign that a sailor would have that they were showing from scurvy is that they would have really low energy. And so the initial thought about how to deal with this is that was just laziness. So they would put them on a very strict, very regimented schedule where they would work them really hard. And that obviously didn't work. And so they started turning to modern medicines at the time where they thought maybe it was an infection like the Black Plague. So they would give them medicine. Medicine didn't do anything. Eventually they thought it was being caused by bad air. So they thought the way to do it is to get certain amount of bad blood out of the person's body. So they would use leeches, and leeches obviously didn't help either. So eventually what happened is that there was a British ship that more or less was being ravaged by scurvy, and it was around the southern horn of South America, and it ended up stopping in a place that had just abundant fruit and vegetables growing everywhere. And so the sailors started eating these foods, and they all happened to be filled with vitamin C. And so if you don't know anything about scurvy, scurvy is actually a vitamin C deficiency. So it's very, very easy to fix in modern day. If somebody has scurvy, you can just start feeding them oranges and they get better. But they didn't know this at the time. And that modern paradigm of medicine was approaching it from the way that they'd approached all other diseases that they'd run across. But this was the first known disease with the Western mindset that had been taught that nutrition was actually important in keeping a body healthy. They had always thought medicine or removing blood or were ways to deal with disease. It was the first instance where they really realized that the food that you put in your body can actually keep it healthy. And so a deficiency can actually cause a disease in the same way that something that shouldn't be there can. So it was a completely different paradigm in how they approached health that solved the problem. And if they'd continue solving it from the previous perspective, they would never have fixed it. And that's exactly what's happening right now, because the paradigm that actually helped me get my erections back was recognizing that my spiritual life was fucked. And what I mean by spiritual life is that inside, I was a mess. I was successful externally. I made a lot of money. I had a good-looking girlfriend who also made good money. I had a lot of things exterior that looked really good. I had status in my job. But the whole time what was happening is I was dead inside. I didn't have any relationship with my emotions. I mostly just didn't even think I had emotions, and definitely did not understand the relationship between my emotions and my behaviors until erection problems showed up and forced me to face them. And I did everything in the world that I could to hide from them. I tried so much external effort to try and fix this problem. And once I started trying internal effort, I went to therapy, and therapy did nothing for me. And the thing that eventually helped me get past this is I lived in a Buddhist monastery. I actually learned how a spiritual tradition treats your inside world and how to make that healthy. So the thing is, your erection problems aren't even what you think. You think the problem is that you can't get hard, and if you could just get hard, your emotional state would feel better. But in actuality, if you look at the main problem you're dealing with, you lose erections for a very small portion of the time that you're miserable. But most of the time, you're miserable all day. You think about this all day, you feel awful all day, when you're with your friends, when you're in the car, when you're doing your hobbies, when you're doing things you love, when you're hanging out with your girl, or even thinking about hanging out with your girl, you feel miserable in all of those. And the thing you haven't paid attention to is that's the real problem. You cannot fix this while your internal world is so messy. You have to take some time to acknowledge that there is an inside part of you that is not okay. And the real shift that I made was from trying to fix the problem, which AKA was just shoving it away, trying to make it go away, into actually just trying to focus on healing, just being honest with myself about the fact that I was not okay. I was in a tremendous amount of pain and I didn't know why, and I didn't know how to make it better. And so I went to somebody who taught me how to do that. And I could never have done this on my own. Just because the whole way I looked at the world was an obstacle to me feeling better and for me getting this part of my life back. And the thing that I want to emphasize is that I, in hindsight, really, really view this problem as it was a gift from God or the universe or whatever you want to say. Because if I'd continued living the life that I was living, I would have worked myself into an early grave. But what happened is life took away something that was so important to me. And I tried everything to not look at what was going on, but eventually I just faced what was inside. I couldn't ignore what was happening inside me anymore. And I wanted to because it was painful. But as I started dealing with that pain, instead of treating it like an enemy, I started befriending it and trying to say, okay, well, what do I need to feel better? And then I started bringing my mind and my emotions into one thing. Instead of constantly letting my mind dictate what was happening and ignoring the emotional consequences that created. And so for most guys, what they're struggling with is that this terrible thing isn't being done to you. What life is actually trying to do is it's trying to open you up to a different kind of health. It's trying to show you that your internal world, your spirit, is in pain. And if you look around the world, most people's spirits are in pain. This is why depression is so prevalent. This is why we're watching people kill each other in the Middle East right now, because people inside are in pain and they're being driven by their minds, not realizing the effect that has internally. And this is just a way that people can't continue to live. The new wave of health that comes through is going to be people actually starting to understand, why am I feeling the way that I'm feeling? And instead of just trying to justify it or say mantras to make yourself feel better, you have to bring your mind and your emotions together. And the thing is that this is a long process, but realistically, life is giving you this problem because it wants you to pay attention to this. If you heal like 1%, your erections come back pretty quickly. But the strange thing about it is that what the benefit that you get from doing this is not actually that you can have sex. And I know this sounds so strange. While I was struggling with sex, all I thought about was sex. And like how I could finally have sex and would I even be able to. But the best thing that came out of fixing this problem, I remember the first time that I was actually able to have sex after years of not being able to. And I was laying next to the girl and we were cuddling. And the cuddling just felt so nice. And I remember being so confused because I'd been fixated on sex for so long. But the thing that I enjoyed more was just laying there naked with somebody and being really vulnerable with them. And that feeling was one of the turning points in how I looked at this. And if we look at other benefits, because I am a relatively emotionally mature person, I can understand my wife in a way that I never would have before. I feel very secure in my relationship all the time because most of the guys out there have no understanding of their internal world. And because they don't understand their own internal world, when women get emotional, they get confused. They shut down, they push themselves away. And so the thing that actually took me from being extremely insecure in every relationship that I was ever in to being incredibly secure in my relationship was the fact that I learned how my internal world worked. And because I understood how mine worked, I started to understand more about how other people's worked. So this thing that you're hiding from, this pain, it's a giant gift. It's not easy. You need to find courage in order to face it, but it's time for you to stop letting the fear and the insecurity run everything. You need to find deep down inside of yourself, there is a part that is ready to stand up and fight. Because it's not the easiest thing you're ever going to do, but the benefits of it, there's nothing you're ever going to do in your life that is going to create the amount of wonderful benefits in your life by fixing it and by putting effort in as this will. So if you're a guy who's got a lot of the pieces in your life in place, if you are, your career is in a pretty good place, you don't have any major external emotional pains that are going to get in the way of healing this particular problem, and you want help and guidance through understanding your internal world and starting to integrate it into your life so that you can fix this problem for good and you can heal it so it doesn't come back and you can get your sex life back. This is what I walk guys through in coaching. I help support you while you're going through the process. I'll help you start to get in touch with those emotions, understand what they mean, and understand how to befriend them so that you're not just trying to shove them away. And when you do that, you get everything I talked about at the beginning of this video. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, there's a link down below how you can get a hold of me. I'd love to help you heal this for good.